hate it when something happens to you just before you're going to bed. Something you could stew about all night long if you wanted to. I've had that happen recently on two separate occasions. So I wanted to share with you the best way I know how to get a good night's sleep. Okay? So the first time, the God nudge was so strong. I heard it and I just turned the light back on and did it. The second time, not so much. And so it wasn't until morning after a whole restless night's sleep that I thought, why the heck didn't I get up and do what I knew would take a few short moments to give me a good night's sleep? So you ready? Okay. The first thing I do is I reach for my journal. And I just write down I just list the angsty bits. It's usually just a few, but something that I shouldn't say out loud, so I won't give you an example this time. Just they're usually things that I'm frustrated about people that I love, something that I've gotten triggered, and it's bothering me. And so at the same time this happens, it's like something always tries to steal my attention while I'm really going to get to the bottom about this. So the first thing I do is I put a little list off the side in the side of my journal. And it's the distractions, but you know what? By the end of it, I usually have a pretty good to-do list. Things I wouldn't want to forget. So I don't change my subject. I don't change my attention to try and focus and figure that out right now, but I keep track of them. I don't let them get away from me. And then I pick one angsty bit at a time. And I write out everything that's on my mind. I just how I feel, and I try to peg it as close as I can, as clearly as I'm struggling, just to put it into words. And I own my bad too. There's something I've done wrong in the midst of it. It takes two. So, and then I write out my desire as well, like what I'm hoping to come out of this. And I just write until I have nothing left to say. And it doesn't take as long as I would have thought. So I write it all out. And then I go back and I go through my words. And God helps me to see, like, for instance, where I need to confess. That is not my favorite thing to do. And how does he do that? That's a good question. It doesn't make me feel guilty, but there is just something that I would normally maybe try to wiggle out of, right? But when I don't, as soon as I agree with him, I feel better. So I do that. I confess, and I forgive. This used to be really, really hard for me, but it's huge. It's one of our superpowers. So yesterday I was actually with a friend, and she has a horrific family story. I don't know how she does so well in her life, except it's by doing things like this. She was telling me this horrible story, and right in the middle she said, "You know me, I put that thing down so fast." And I thought about it. It reminded me of like a hot potato, right? Because what happens when we don't forgive? Like if I didn't stop and do this and journal this out, I would have laid awake half the night, and every single time I replayed that issue in my mind, I would have partnered more agreement with it. You know how by the end of it, you're like, yeah, it's so bad, right? And it builds a wall, bigger and stronger, in between you and the other people who are involved. But when I forgive, the opposite happens, right? I start to admit, again, my bad. And once I do it, my heart softens. I begin to understand a little bit more about how the other person feels that way. Because it's usually someone that I really care about. I don't know why, but, people that we don't really care about don't bother us that much, right? And so when I really think about it, I'm able to kind of go through it in a different way after I've come to this place. And so once I forgive, that wall comes down. And once I look at it, I'm able to pray for them in a better way. And that just helps the whole situation all the way around. And you want to talk about superpowers. Prayer, I think, is probably our biggest one. The Bible calls it our sword, even. And so once all of it's laid aside, I ask. The Bible says we have not because we ask not. So let's not do that, right? So I ask for what I want God to do in the situation. And that's not like micromanaging how I want him to fix it, but it really is giving it over to him And again, my reframe, I can't wait to see what you're going to do with that. Has really, it's been cool the way it has built so many cool God stories by me letting go and me walking through the stuff I really needed to do to own my bad and forgive. And so honestly, I've actually done this similar thing. I've aimed to do it almost every morning for the past, I don't know, like 20, 30 years. But as you can see in these crazy days lately, sometimes it's not enough just to do it once a day. Sometimes I have to go back. And you know what? Every single time it works. It does work. And I can get a good night's sleep or I have a much better day because I can tell when I haven't done this in the morning, and I think the people around me can probably tell too, right? So anyways, let me pray. Dear sweet Jesus, I thank you so much that you want us to come to you and you want to help fix these things for us. So I do ask you to help us to see clearly, to really name and recognize those angsty bits so we can let go. I love that promise where you say, when we bring our cares and concerns to you, that you will trade them for that peace that passes all understanding. And now more than ever, we really need that. So I just ask you for that for each one of my friends who's listening to this, that you would help them to go through these steps, even if they don't write it down, if they're laying in bed thinking this through, just so they can let go, receive your peace, and have sweet, sweet dreams. Thank you.